Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Cabinet meeting of Rushcliffe Borough Council. Due to technical reasons, those wonderful technical reasons that nobody understands, the meeting can't be live streamed tonight, so there will be a recording of the meeting made, and it will be available on the Council's YouTube channel tomorrow. Under the Local Authorities Regulations 2012, other people may film, record, post on social media or blog from this meeting, and the use of those such or any of those type of images are not under the Council's control. So, without further ado, on to item 1, apologies for absence. I think we are all here. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does anybody have any interest to declare? None. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 10th of September. May I sign those as a true and correct record? Everybody in favour? Thank you. Item 4, citizens' questions. I believe there are none. So we're straight on to item 5, which is the opposition group leaders' questions. And if I could invite Councillor Jen Walker to come forward, please. And if you'd like to, you know the drill.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Except you having a sideways view on the camera, which is different. But anyway, when you're ready, fire away.
Thank you. Good evening. Ambition 7 in the Economic Growth Strategy states that it will provide support for business infrastructure to provide easy access for customers, suppliers, and employees, as well as Ambition 8 is to support residents who want to work but face barriers to working. Despite these statements, there's no stated action of how the Council will help accessibility needs in the document. Has Cabinet considered how all residents access the local economy and made serious considerations as to how they will satisfy these aims mentioned as part of their business support? Thank you.
Councillor Brennan, would you like to respond, please?
Thank you. Yes, thanks, Councillor Walker, for the question. Obviously, we recognise that accessibility to business is important, both for customers and for businesses. So it has an economic and a social benefit. The strategy itself sets out our high-level ambitions, and it's the action plan that outlines the specific types of initiatives that we'll support going forward. And that action plan will be regularly reviewed by the Growth Board, and the action then it prioritised as it rolls out. I mean, we met recently. I met with you along with one of your residents and with Access Able, which are a company that looks to provide information for customers and visitors on the accessibility of local areas and amenities, businesses, and so on. We know that commercial buildings must be accessible by law when they can be made to be so, but we also recognise that more can be done, and additional information is not always available to customers and end users. We agreed at that meeting that we would review our actions on this and look and see where funding might be available to pursue work in the area, and we are currently undertaking that exercise. The previous government provided funding such as the Welcome Back Fund and the UK SPF, which I believe Access Able secured in order to undertake some work reasonably locally. Obviously, those funds are no longer available to us. So we'd hope that the new Labour government will make additional resources available. For Ambition 8, we're already utilising UK SPF funds to provide support to those furthest from the labour market back into training and employment. To continue this work, though, beyond March 2025, again, we'll need additional funding, which we would hope to be able to secure either through MCA or directly from government grants.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Walker?
Yeah, no, I do. That was a great answer. Thank you for that. That's really helpful. I think what I'm asking is how actively we engage with accessibility groups and those people who are marginalised. And did we engage with them as part of the implementation of the strategy? I think you may have answered it, but I don't know if there's any more to add to that.
Councillor Brennan.
This particular strategy focuses on obviously on the economic impact, and we mentioned this in our discussions that there is an economic benefit to the bottom line of businesses to ensure that they can get their customers through the door and that they receive a welcome and appropriate an appropriate welcome and that they can access the facilities and amenities. Whether specifically looking at those accessibility issues sits within the economic development plan, I think it's a conversation we can continue to have. But I would imagine that there's certainly elements of it that do. And I think we need to look at the action plan, look at the priorities identified and see where those things cross over. I think there's a case to be made for it, but obviously we're limited by the available resources. If we are to pursue any kind of new initiatives, then of course we would consult with, liaise with and design them with accessibility groups.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walker. Thank you. We have a second question from Councillor Birch. He's not present in the meeting, so I will ask it on his behalf. And the question is also in relation to the economic growth strategy. And we're asking Councillor Brandon to respond to this as well. But the question is, the consultation feedback highlights concerns about focus on Central Avenue and West Bridgford. How does the Conservative Council plan to ensure that other town centres and villages across the borough, such as Bingham, Cotgrave, Eastleigh, Keyworth and Radcliffe, receive adequate attention and investment to support balanced economic growth? Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Well, vibrant towns and village centres are a key ambition of the council, and we're already working with partners to create visions and plans to ensure that this can happen and that will remain a priority going forward. I have to say, I don't entirely recognise Councillor Birch's characterisation of the feedback to the economic strategy consultation. We did undertake extensive consultations, but there was no significant amount of feedback that I can identify that says we're placing too much emphasis on West Bridgford. I think there were two, maybe three feedback comments that referenced West Bridgford investment, and at least one of those talked about the need to spread that investment wider than the avenue to the surrounding areas. So I'm not sure that there was a significant amount of feedback that said that we focused too much on West Bridgford, and I would contend that there wasn't. West Bridgford is a major settlement, and it would be remiss of us really not to look at how we continue to ensure that it's a vibrant and exciting town centre. I also think it's important to know West Bridgford is our largest population centre. The avenue has some of the highest footfall of any of our town centres, and West Bridgford, of course, has no town or parish council. So to all intents and purposes, the borough acts essentially in that role for West Bridgford. So our relationship to that town is fundamentally different than in many cases than it is to other towns and villages in the borough. Nonetheless, we've already invested significant sums in Cotgrave Town Centre, around 7.5 million, over 20 million in Bingham leisure and office facilities, as well as work to improve the Market Square. And we're drawing down funds from the UK SBF to support Radcliffe-on-Trent to update their previous master plan, which was also funded with growth funds from the Borough Council. And we've undertaken retail reviews across all our town centres. Our funds are by definition limited, and where we don't own land or property, which is the case for most of our towns and villages, we need to work with local partners to bring those plans forward, particularly with town and parish councils. And of course, there are other agencies involved, such as the Highways Authority and others, that we need to bring on board and work in partnership with. So essentially, it is a priority for us going forward. We've done an awful lot of work so far. West Bridgford is next on the list, but not exclusively. And I would be encouraging all the town and parish to use some of their own resources where appropriate to help bring forward village and town plans that we can work in partnership with them on.
Thank you for that. Just as a supplementary, you've listed lots of investments in the other town areas. Do you think there's a case where we could maybe publicise that more so that people in the borough are more informed about the amount of investment that we are undertaking across the whole borough?
Yes, there probably is. There's a proposed scrutiny item. It hasn't been approved yet, but going to growth and development scrutiny hopefully in January, which is going to look at the health of our town centres, and maybe that would be a good time and opportunity to look at the outcome of that and make sure that people are aware of the extent of the investment that we're making across the entire borough.
Thank you very much for that. That concludes the questions. So we'll now move straight on to the substantive items. which are non-key decisions. So I'll move straight to item 6 on page 5, which relates to the economic growth strategy. And if I could ask Councillor Brennan to present that item, please.
Thank you. Well, I'm extremely pleased to present Rushcliffe Borough Council's first ever economic growth strategy to the Cabinet. And given the creation of EMCA, the East Midlands Combined County Authority, Mayoral Combined County Authority, and the emphasis it places on growth in the region, I think it's very timely that Cabinet is considering this now. We are not obliged to deliver such a strategy, so its production emphasises the importance we place on ensuring that Rushcliffe is a vital economy and is open for business. Hopefully everybody's had the opportunity to read the final version of the strategy and the accompanying draft action plan. It is backed up, as you will see, and informed by significant research and data collection. Supporting economic growth is a key challenge for us because as a borough council, we have relatively few direct levers to support the ambitions. So this strategy sets out where we can take direct action, where we can work with partners to deliver our objectives, and where we will seek to influence and advocate for growth with other partners, stakeholders and the government. So if you like, this is a kind of prospectus for the borough, which sets out our vision and makes clear that there is a lot to offer businesses here and that we will welcome them, encourage them and support them. The strategy has been subject to significant consultation and all the major stakeholders and businesses have had an opportunity to comment and input into it, as well as members of the public more widely. I think we all recognise that economic growth fundamentally shapes a place, and we are keen to ensure that this strategy effectively protects and enhances what makes Rushcliffe an attractive place to live, work and visit. And a vibrant economy links to all aspects of the many factors that contribute to the quality of life of local residents. Our vision is set out at paragraph 4.6. We want to promote sustainable economic growth and regional opportunities to deliver a prosperous and thriving local economy, place to work and visit, which retains the unique local heritage and character of the borough. The vision is highlighted within the 3 main themes of the strategy: place and experience, what's it like to live, work and visit Rushcliffe, including our town centres and high streets, which we've already talked about, housing growth and our culture and heritage. And in particular, we'll be focusing on vibrant communities and enhancing the tourism offer to the borough. Investment in infrastructure, attracting new businesses to the borough and securing the right transport and other infrastructure to support that growth. Business support, growth and skills, providing the right support to our existing businesses and understanding our current and future skills needs. We'll reflect those priorities across the borough, from the huge opportunities that are presented by the redevelopment of the Rushcliffe Power Station site, through to small industrial units in local settlements and vibrant local towns and village centres. As you're already aware, the strategy comes at a time of considerable political change in terms of the infrastructure of the East Midlands, with the establishment of the East Midlands County Combined Authority. Its 6 priorities are housing, skills and adult education, transport, net zero, economic development and the visitor economy. EMCA's focus is on regional ambitions for growth with funding to support delivery. And it's hoped that the creation of EMCA will better enable us to speak with one voice, raise the profile of the region and so the areas within it. The priorities outlined in our economic growth will be used to focus our ambition for Rushcliffe within this devolution process and leverage the potential to deliver. It's important that EMCA does not lose sight of Rushcliffe Borough and that the investment continues to come here for opportunities that this borough's economy can present, and that we are not left behind, that we are not relied upon to continue to be successful, because we can never sit on our laurels and we need to continually make sure that our businesses are supported and developing. So I'd like to commend the economic development team for the huge amount of effort and work they put into this document. I think it's great. We intend for it to be a living document that will inform our work going forward, and will continue to be reviewed by the Growth Board, which has several partners and other parties on board. I think it's an excellent piece of work. I'd like to commend it to the Cabinet and ask that you indicate.
Thank you very much indeed for that. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'm second leader, and well, I think for me it's a fantastic document. What it shows is that, as you can the stats, Rushcliffe is already ahead of many other places in terms of the work we do on economic growth, but we're not standing still. We want to keep going further and have aspirations of the borough. So the work we've done, for example, around the free ports, around the development sites at Fareham, and the planned future developments show that we are focused on delivering employment sites and jobs and growth for the borough. And we have a fantastic opportunity with, obviously, Borough's now being Premiership team, I hope it will be for a long time to come. With the cricket club, Nottingham County Cricket Club, going to be hosting Ashes Test matches with Notts County doing well, and with National Sports Centre. So that's an opportunity to take advantage of that, and we need to continue to work with our partners to deliver. And if you look around our town centres compared to other places in the borough and the country, there's barely an empty unit on our town centre, which I think shows the confidence people have here in Rushcliffe. So this document, I think, gives them the guarantee to business as well that we recognise that's the impact that they have in the borough, and we want to work with them to keep growing further. So really happy to second the document. Look forward to seeing it enacted and grow over future years. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions or comments? Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. As Councillor Brennan says, economic growth shapes a place. Quite right. It underpins housing and life experiences of our residents. I would say we need sustainable economic growth as well. But, you know, there's always change, always has been change, probably always will be change. And I think you need to respond to change, otherwise you've got serious problems. So, yeah, I endorse this report. I think it sets a plan, it sets a vision going forward based on economic growth. And without economic growth, in my opinion, lots of other experiences and opportunities just don't happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Verdi.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Brennan, for presenting the strategy to us. And of course, I fully support and endorse the strategy and the report presented to us. I wanted to bring to Cabinet's attention very briefly, whilst acknowledging section 7.1 in terms of the financial implications, and there are no direct costs associated with this report. It is worth bearing in mind, of course, as we move forwards and we have to implement the strategy and any associated actions, which inevitably, and we've all agreed, would deliver lots of tangible, quantitative and qualitative benefits. It is worth noting that sometimes investment is required to realise some of these things. And of course, we will be working very closely with officers and ensuring that any future plans and actions which we implement are considered very carefully in light of our budgets and our financial position. So, of course, very, very positive. We're moving forwards, and we will, be developing the borough moving forwards through this strategy, and we will do it in a sensible way in terms of any investment that is required as well. So, just really to highlight that in the context of section paragraph 17. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, Councillor Inglis.
Yeah, just picking up on the sporting side that Councillor Wood has mentioned, I think you just omitted one of the local teams we do support, Nottingham Rugby Club, who are starting the season very good season as well. Yeah, we don't overlook that.
I was going to mention that as well. Yes, it's been mentioned a couple of times that we are very pro-business, and I think this does indicate very much that this council is pro-business, does want lots of employment opportunities to succeed, in order that people who are moving into all these new houses have the opportunities to have somewhere locally to work, rather than having to travel a long way. So that's also helps satisfy carbon reduction as well, hopefully. So very much support all of this. It has been moved and seconded, so all those in favour, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to item 7, which is the future of East Midlands Development Corporation, shortened to DevCo. And I will present this report. You can see from the recommendation, talking about necessary steps to bring forward the voluntary dissolution of the Development Corporation. As the report says, DevCo was created back in May 2021, and it was relevant then because it was actually part of a regional conversation facilitated by Midlands Engine, and it served a purpose then because it brought together various parts of the process for regeneration. You can see in paragraph 4.4 that the council did invest around £400,000. We originally requested to pay £500,000, but we've actually ended up paying £400,000, and that is alongside all the other partner councils, which were part of the members of DevCo as well. The part of the reason for the creation of it was not only, but included HS2. And that's one of the reasons why the expansion of the HS2, when that was cancelled, then obviously that meant that there was not such a need for the process to continue, but also then the emergence of other power supplies, because this relates very much to, or includes very much the Rushcliffe power station site, and the emergence of West Burton power station in Bassetlaw, and step fusion, which has very much come to the fore and become preference for power generation. Then added to that, the creation of the East Midlands Freeport, the only inland freeport in the country. That's continued to develop, and the member authorities of DevCo were also part of the Freeport. So that meant that there were lots of overlaps that were starting to emerge with the different organisations. And on that subject, then the establishment of the East Midlands County Combined Authority, EMCA, which has already been mentioned in the previous item, that has also very much come to the fore, covering Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire, and Rushcliffe on Soar Power Station is on the right on the middle of those two organisations. So there's been a lot of work undertaken, and in fact, DevCo has undertaken some useful work in terms of, for instance, the East Midlands Stations growth strategy, because work has come forward on improving the potential for the growth and local infrastructure relating to East Midlands Parkway Station. And I think that will also very much become even more important as the emerging power station sites comes forward. So there have been some strong and useful relationships formed, but I think it has now served its purpose, because the governance, in fact it says in paragraph 7.1, the governance is crowded, and there are so many different organisations. I think the time is right for DevCo to be dissolved in order that these other organisations can then carry on the work and take forward redevelopment of both the power station sites and other economic growth opportunities. So with that, I will propose the two recommendations, which are on page 53, A and B. So that's both the voluntary dissolution and then delegating authority to the Chief Executive to consent and sign the resolutions to enable that dissolution. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Yes, well, you covered a great deal of detail in your report. I think the DevCo was of its time, and it has produced some interesting pieces of work and research, and it's brought groups of partners together to look at very specific issues such as the rail station growth area. And I think there was a danger that we would have too many organisations covering the same geography and trying to achieve very similar ends in terms of maximising investment potential, regeneration, and so on. And obviously with the creation of EMCA, that it's really right and proper that we look to put as much support into EMCA to enable them to act as that single voice, as I mentioned, is the previous paper on the economic development, economic growth strategy, that they need to have the levers to manage the space, and they are looking at putting together a spatial strategy. So it's very important that we're clear who has the voice for the region and what their objectives are. And actually, I think it's a very brave decision, because it would not be the first time in the history of economic growth and development sites that we have had 5 or 6 different organisations competing for the same ticket, as it were, which is very confusing, particularly for investors, businesses looking to relocate in the area, don't know who to talk to. Each one's offering a slightly different package. So I actually think it's a very good, brave decision to close it down when it's succeeded in doing what it was initially established to do. That work has not been lost. There is a legacy programme to hand over the work to EMCA, so that is not lost to the region and the partners who funded it and took part in it, and the lessons we can learn from it and the work that can continue to be taken forward under EMCA's envelope or umbrella. So I think it's a very sound decision to wind it up now, and to leave the sort of the field clear for EMCA to develop its leading role in that space.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments, Councillor Upton?
I don't want to be too blunt in my comments, but I do echo the sentiment that you and Councillor Brennan have made. I make no apology for welcoming the dissolution of this quango, frankly. Indeed, I struggle to find any tangible evidence on the ground in terms of what regeneration it actually has achieved. So, you know, I was confused about what it did, what others do. So I welcome any reduction in duplication, for want of a better word, and I think this makes a step in the right direction, so as you can focus on East Midlands Combined Authority, and it focuses regeneration rather than spreading it around any number of organisations. And I would suggest there are others that should follow this lead.
Yes, thank you for that. Well, I think your comments relate back to the governance is crowded. So with reducing the number of organisations, I think Councillor Brennan made the point about people need to know who to go to get that extra investment. Any other comments or questions? No. So it has been moved and seconded. So all those in favour, please. Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. That's the last item on the agenda. So therefore, I will declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance.